Life Happens is the podcast that helps you build mental fitness, brought to you by 87%. I'm James Gwinnett, endurance athlete and the marketing director of 87%. And in this series, I speak to inspirational people to get their take on life's ups and downs, how they've overcome setbacks, and what it means to be mentally fit. And we're talking setbacks today. It's the basis of today's guest's story, a stroke no less. But if the basis of the story are the challenges that followed the stroke, including raising a family and keeping her business going, then the rest of the story is inspirational, as she found the determination to beat those physical symptoms and the doubt that came with these, to build herself back up and thrive once again. I'm really looking forward to talking through a heartwarming story of overcoming adversity with Nicky Marshall. Welcome to Life Happens.
Hi, James. Yeah, and thanks for inviting me.
That's my pleasure. Now, we are a mental fitness platform, and first, probably most important, the question that we ask our guests is, how are you?
I'm not going to answer fine, James. That's what we do, isn't it? I'm fine. How are you? So I'm not going to do that. I am very well. Feeling very good. The sun is shining. I'm minorly irked that my granddaughter's birthday present has come with a defect on it. But in the grand scheme of life in general, that's the only thing that's going on today. So that can't be bad.
It sounds okay. There's always something that's just sent to test us, isn't there? And well, we'll talk about the things that have tested you over the years, if we may. Can we set the scene? Early 2010, I believe. You were a successful businesswoman, a mother of 4. I've looked on your website. You described yourself as loving nothing more than family time, which is wonderful, but also adventurous, active. You were into scuba diving. I wonder if you could describe the years leading up to that period and the successes and that you'd enjoyed.
Yeah, sure. So as you say, I've got four children. I've got 2 daughters of my own and 2 stepsons, and now grandchildren. We've got 3 lovely grandchildren between us as well, which is awesome. Leading up to that, yes, I'd had unhappy times. I'd been through divorce. I'd been a single parent. I'd met Mr. Marshall, and we'd got together. And when I met him, I was very much a home bird, would always be at home doing stuff. And he was action man. In fact, some of my friends used to call him the milk tray man, because of that sort of image, because he was just learning to scuba dive. He'd done parachuting and anything active, he'd done it. So it kind of rubbed off. I learned indoor rock climb. We now go indoor skydiving. That's the kind of recent thing, the wind tunnel things.
Very cool.
Yeah, he was learning to dive, and so I was like, well, sign me up, I'll do that. That sounds cool. So very much learned to dive, became an assistant instructor, qualified to dive to 50 meters, loved it. Every other weekend when I didn't have the children, the children learned to dive as well during the time. So it became a really massive part of our life. And I had come from a background of finance. I qualified as a management accountant. I've been company accountant in a security company for 5 years, I think. And then I'd started my own holistic therapy business, because through my own health after my divorce, I'd learned the wonders. Holistic therapy, I learned kind of the therapeutic benefits of that, rather than just it being a nice massage with tinkly music. I'd learned how it could really help with physical conditions. And so I trained as a holistic therapist. I did reflexology, A-levels in anatomy and physiology, the whole kit and caboodle. My dad was like, so you're not being an accountant anymore, and you're doing what? Yeah,
it's quite a considerable transition from accountancy to holistic therapist and anatomy.
Definitely. So yeah, I set up some stress management schemes in companies, including a department within the Ministry of Defence here in Bristol. And then I realised that actually, if people want holistic therapy, there's a bit of the unknown. They don't really know what's behind that door, what their experience is going to be. So I thought, well, actually, if I could have a coffee shop and holistic centre, then people could come in for a coffee. They could chill out on a busy day if they dropped the kids to school and hadn't gone so well, or whatever was happening in life. They could have a coffee, a really good really good piece of cake, and then they could learn about the therapies. I could show people around, and they would sort of just, you know, bust those myths around what therapies were. So that was the dream. And in the April of 2010, we opened the doors after lots of hard work, up at 6, working till midnight. Phil had helped with the refurb too. So we'd, you know, the family, the girls had joined in and done all their hygiene courses. So it was a real sort of family affair. And yeah, we opened the doors, we had a really lovely party, but then the work begins. And when we're talking about mindset, that was when the kind of mind monkeys came in for me, because as an accountant, I knew the figures, you know, I knew how much we had to make just to cover the overheads without paying other members of staff. So I think I lost my nerve a little bit. We'd been so busy with the kind of run up to it that I think at that point I went, oh, hang on, now I've got to make this work. So I was like, right, very British, isn't it? Right. I'm just going to work really hard for 6 months and then I'll get some help. But actually life had other ideas for me.
Well, perhaps talk about, I mean, it sounds like, you know, you're very healthy and fit, you know, obviously married to an action man and doing all these crazy skydives and dives. And perhaps in the months and weeks leading up to, I've mentioned you had a stroke. Let me sort of explain where I'm going to. If you Google the cause of a stroke, it returns all these sorts of unhealthy habits, smoking, drinking, overeating. It doesn't sound like you were doing any of those, but stress is also a key factor. So I wonder, were there any warning signs?
Yeah, I think, you know, as you well know, when you have a life-changing incident, it gives you lots of time to look back. And I think over those years, part of the dive club, there was a very social aspect to it. So I had been, you know, going out for drinks, you know, probably drank more than the recommended limit. I love chocolate, and obviously we opened a coffee shop. So if you think about it, if I was up, you know, at 4 o'clock in the morning, at that kind of, oh my goodness, did I pay someone, or did I turn the coffee machine off last night, or did I, whatever. So 4 in the morning, my day would start with a complete, you know, stressful jump. And then I'd usually get to the shop early, start, you know, doing whatever, planning, marketing, whatever things, because social media wasn't the thing it is today. So I was trying to network as well to try and kind of, you know, promote this business. So I hadn't planned what I was going to eat. So the coffee shop sold coffee and cake. So I'd get to about 4 o'clock, having not really eaten very much, and then just have a piece of cake and a coffee. Well, that, you know,
wonderful.
It was wonderful. Enjoyed every single calorie. It's marvelous. Having not had, you know, one of our nutrition ladies that works for us, she says, not about what you take out of your diet, is what you put in. You know, there were none of the vegetables or anything healthy. And then I'd get home 9-10 o'clock at night, and Phil would have cooked, you know, a chili or a curry or something, and he and the kids would have eaten. And I would eat cold chili because I was so tired, didn't even microwave it. The next day I was completely horrified. Like, you didn't even heat it up. I was just too tired. I just needed fodder, you know. And then I'd answer emails and probably go to bed about 12. So my sleep was about 4 hours. My coffee and sugar intake were through the roof. And what I didn't know was that my blood pressure and cholesterol was, you know, quietly creeping up, not helped with the stress levels, of course. So that was the sort of perfect storm, if you like. And then, yes, we went diving. I hadn't, you know, they always talk about fitness to dive. So we'd gone to Lindsay over in the Bristol Channel. I was typing a newsletter about 4 o'clock in the morning. We were due to leave at 5. And I remember Phil like jangling the keys and saying, the ferry will go without us. And I remember saying to him, you know how certain things stick in your head? I remember saying to him, I have to do this. Did I have to type that newsletter when I was back on Monday? Like, did I really? But in my stressed state, I had, you know, I was already handing over the shop for 3-4 days, which turned into 2 weeks. But, you know, it's like, I have to do this. So I typed the newsletter. So when we arrived for the dive, I wasn't well rested and calm and in control. You know, Phil had packed all my dive kit for me, which you never let anyone pack your kit, but I just didn't have the headspace for it. So yeah, not the best landing for a weekend of diving.
Sure. And it strikes me that it's very much the case that your mental health, it was impacting your physical health in terms of the worry, the stress, affecting the amount of sleep that you were getting. It was affecting your diet. Obviously, this is a circular spiral process. One affects the other. It gets worse and worse and worse, and it obviously leads to this moment where the body decides it's had enough.
Yeah, and we were going diving on the Friday morning. On the Thursday night, we'd had an evening event. So the event hadn't finished till 9 o'clock. Then I had to kind of clear up and wash up and tidy up and everything else. And I was driving home, and there's a really sharp bend on my way home. And I had the thought, what if you just went straight? That was what my brain said. If you just went straight, this might stop. So I very carefully took the bend and drove very carefully home. But I remember thinking to myself, you really need this break. And when you come back, there needs to be some changes, because, mental health wasn't as talked about it as it is now. But sure enough, from wellbeing, I know mind, body, spirit. So, massive part of that. So I'd already kind of said to myself, you need to make some changes. But obviously after having the cerebral bend, well, I had a bend in my lungs, my shoulder and my brain. So it was a very severe bend, and I had a week of recompression therapy after that. And they say that at some point that cerebral bend caused a stroke. So yeah, I had to make some changes.
That's, excuse me, that sort of crowbars in that very nicely to something I want to pick up later. That's sort of, verging on suicidal thoughts, because you're a suicide first aider, aren't you? But we'll come on to that later, if that's okay, because I want to stick to the sort of the chronology if possible. And let's come on to the stroke itself. We've all seen those TV adverts, the act fast ones. Do you know the ones I mean?
Yeah, the whole face.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder if you remember where were you diving at the time? I wonder, where were you? Do you remember the incident itself? Do you know, were you aware what was going on? Can you describe the sensation?
So there was the bend and the stroke, and I think they were two separate things looking back. So we dived 2 dives that day, not really that deep, not really that technical, but there was a bit of a current. My mask was leaking. My dry suit was a little bit tight, funnily enough, after all that cake. I joked that it had obviously shrunk during the winter months. Being in the garage, it's very cold. So we'd done the 2 dives, and in the afternoon, on the way back up, they call it Cardiac Hill on Lundy, to get back up to the campsite, I'd completely lost my breath and had to tug on Phil's arm to stop, because I just couldn't catch my breath, and I had to completely stop. And once I got my breath back, I remember saying to him, I need to get fitter. I'm not fit to dive right now. I need to go to the gym. And something else to do on the top of the list. We, that night had a nice meal, good night's sleep, but 4 o'clock the next morning I woke up and I just couldn't take a full breath. And so the lung bend was the first, the muscular bend was the first thing. But I remember saying, I think I've just pulled a muscle. I didn't wake Phil up to start off with. I walked around the campsite field for 2 hours, trying to walk it off. And I woke him up at 6 and just said, I don't think I'm very well. I think I've pulled I feel like I've pulled a muscle or something. And luckily there was a GP staying on the island with us. She checked me out. Phil said, maybe you ought to take a bag, just in case. I was thinking, why do I need to take a bag? But anyway, I did pack a few things. And she called the Diver Diseases Research Centre in Plymouth, who said they thought it was punctured lung to start off with. And then I was just feeling really old. When you can't get enough air, I've had pleurisy before, and it's the same kind of feeling. Every time you move, you just seem to use up all of your energy. And Helen was just saying, we need to get you off this island, but the ribs the club use are very short. And she was saying they were too bouncy. I wouldn't be able to stand the long journey back to the mainland. And the Coast Guard arrived. I don't know which Coast Guard, where they came from, because according to the people I've asked, no one was patrolling that day, but they were coming from somewhere. But they said they saw divers and thought they'd come in and say hi, because Lundy's are no take zones, so quite often they'll just zip round and just make sure there's no fishing boats and stuff. So they got to the jetty, and Helen had just said, she's really sick. She doesn't really know she's that sick, but can you get her to hospital? Don't let her get a taxi at the other end. Make sure she gets in an ambulance, because I just didn't want to cause a fuss, you know. But halfway across the Bristol Channel, they were racing, and I was thinking, God, where's the fire, lads? You know, what's going on? So I'm hanging onto the seat in front of me, and I saw dolphins, and it was all very lovely. And then suddenly I couldn't grip the seat in front. So this arm stopped working, and then it started fizzing. And I know that's the bends, because the nitrogen's trying to get out of your body. And I just couldn't hang on. And so by the time we got to got to shore, I at that point, I think it was all happening. So the guy asked if he could carry my bag, and usually I would say no, you know, because diving, you have to carry your own kit, that's the thing. But I just kind of handed in my bag, and by the time we got to the harbour master in Ilfracombe, he said, "What's your name?" And it took me a really long time. I just didn't know my name. And then after what felt like 5 minutes, it was probably 30 seconds, but I would remember, you know, so my brain was working, but on a real slow, and I couldn't remember where I dived or how deep we'd gone, those kind of things. And that was when they got me in an ambulance to Barnstable Hospital. Chest x-ray was clear, so then they scooted me down to Plymouth, where the real, you know, the diving experts did their thing and diagnosed all the bends and got me in treatment. So strange process.
Wowzers. And I mean, how long were you there? What was the recovery process? You know, what sort of time frame are we talking for you to sort of be out of action, as it were?
Yeah, so I had when I'd left Phil on Lundy, telling him that he should carry on with his dive trip and I wouldn't interrupt that. And he let me go, and then was like, why did I let her tell me to stay? I wanted to go anyway. So I had 14 hours of recompression therapy over sort of 2 sessions. So I had one lot, a stay overnight in hospital, then another lot. And that makes you really short-sighted, like the actual treatment itself. I kind of couldn't really see very much when I came out. My dad and daughter came and picked me up from Plymouth, got home. Phil got home later that night, and then the next morning all the symptoms came on again, so I had to go back down to Plymouth for 2 more treatments. And I felt better, but once I got home, I rang again and I said, all these symptoms have come back. And I remember that Phil Bryson, the amazing guy that runs it, he just said, I think that's how you're going to be. So, but I can't feel my leg, and I can't use my arm. And he said, well, with the bends, it usually gets better within 6 months. But he said, we've given you all the treatment that we can give you. So I rested for a week. Luckily, my daughter had been working part-time for me, and just before that, she'd been made redundant from her full-time job. So I'd taken her on as my manager just to cover my holiday. So she stayed on for 3 weeks and ended up staying on for 2.5 years. But I tried to get in the car a week or so later, and just stalled all the way down the road because I had no pressure in my left leg, so I couldn't, or the messages between my leg and my brain weren't working, so I couldn't use my car. So I had to come back in home and not go to work until I bought an automatic car. That was my one thing. I was like, I need transport. So I just really, really quickly, within 2 weeks, I had an automatic car. I nearly got a stick. I didn't, because I thought it would affect my balance, and I kind of thought that I need to keep moving, keep using all these muscles. So yeah.
Crikey. I mean, there must have been a massive shift in the way, I suppose, that you perceived yourself. Was there? I often talk to guests about identity, and I mean, I went through a sort of loss of identity when I injured myself playing rugby. I wonder if you went through something similar. Did you lose touch with that successful businesswoman, that mother image that you had of Nicky, and did you have to sort of fight to find her again?
Yeah, because I'd always been like fiercely independent. As I said, when my marriage went wrong, I was the rock for the kids, and I'd been a single parent. And so even though Phil was a massive part of our life and the girls adore him, I was still trying to do everything for them, So and initially after the dive, I was trying to convince everyone that I was okay. So I'm fine came out a lot, whereas Nat was fine, freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and exhausted. That's kind of where I've got to know fine, as being. So yeah, I started, trying to just convince everyone I was okay. Then I got really angry. And then it was 9 months later that I got the diagnosis that it had been a stroke, because I went to a neurologist because I hadn't got any better. In fact, I'd got worse. And the pain levels in my arm, I always thought when you had a stroke, your arm went numb, and you couldn't feel it. Well, I had no strength in it, but it was just like constant nagging, gnawing pain. And my blood pressure had gone through the roof as a result of that. And the neurologist did the pinprick, is this sharp or dull? And found that actually I couldn't feel my face either, or down my side, like my whole left side had been affected. And I just didn't realize, because you wash your face, I had a hand that didn't work on a face that didn't work. So I hadn't actually noticed. And so when I got that diagnosis, my mum was in the room when he said stroke, my mum was crying, and I just thought, crikey, like what's going on? And I went home like a wounded animal. And at that point, I was actually guarding, I was sort of giving people this shoulder rather than, and I was hanging on to my arm. And a nurse friend of mine sort of said the body language. But I felt like I was made of glass and I would break. I thought my blood pressure's so high, it wouldn't take very much for, and actually my granddad had had a stroke and then a second one that had killed him. So all those little thoughts in your head, but I did have really great care from my GP and the NHS, and I got, blood pressure medication and painkillers so I could actually get some sleep. And I think that getting some sleep and actually being kind to myself was the start of that recovery. But yeah, it was a long old journey.
But it took, like you say, it took 9 months for that diagnosis to come through. So, I mean, I suppose, how did that affect your outlook from the previous 9 months to then moving forward once you'd had that diagnosis?
Yeah, because I'd spoken to people in the dive club who'd had other bends, and they'd said, yeah, for 6 months they'd had a problem, and then it just went away. It just naturally got better. So I think I was almost treading water for that 6 months, kind of waiting it out. I think it's like lockdown, really. We thought it was going to be a couple of weeks, then a couple of months, and so you kind of, you don't really do a lot. But then once you get that diagnosis, it hits you like a ton of bricks, because stroke, he said, how you are in 18 months is how you'll be forever, and you will never dive again. Those are the two phrases that he gave me, both of which are completely untrue from what I've learned. The body renews completely every 7 years. So you haven't even got the same cells in your body within 7 years. So how can you peg something at 18 months and say, well, that's how you'll be forever? And I did dive again, but I think that was sheer bloody mindedness, just to prove him wrong, actually. I remember Phil coming home one night. I'd been sat in the living room with my mum, she just made tea. I just sat there thinking, well, I'm going to have to sell the shop, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. I think I might just sit in this chair forever. But after a couple of days, my parents always used to say I was stubborn as a teenager. And I think that's what got me through, because I was like, I am darned if I'm not going to dive again, and I'm darned if this is my life, and I'm not giving up my there were a lot of expletives that I won't share, but I'm not giving up the shop that was my dream business. I'm not gonna put hand my card in now. I'm not doing that. So Phil came through the door that night and I said, I'm going to dive again. He went, cool.
I love that. I love that. And that's where I'm amazed by the power of mental fitness, the resilience of the human mind. At the time of recording, we're in the throes of the Paralympics, and there are all these wonderful stories of inspiration, captivating, mesmerizing stories. Similarly, you were effectively disabled by this stroke, but you made the decision to bounce back. Talk to me about that 2-day period and the thought process that you went through. Where did you get that motivation to say, actually, no, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, so the morning that I completely stopped, I was getting ready I was going to go to work. I was getting ready, and obviously I had my car, by then, so I had an automatic car. I could get around, and my daughter and I worked really hard at keeping the business going, and people were it was building in momentum. And at one point, at the heyday, we had six part-time members of staff and 7 holistic therapists in this place. So it was pretty busy, and I was getting ready for work, so I got in the shower, and we've got a metal shower in a metal bath. And because my left hand had no grip, I dropped the shower in the bath, and it made a massive noise, and something snapped. That's all I can say, because I burst into tears, got out of the bath, rang my mum. My dad answered and could hear the sniffles. He was like, "I'll get your mother," that that thing. And so, yeah, I just sat. Mum came over and I just said, "I'm done. Why am I trying to do all this? Like, it's never going to work. I've had a stroke. Who am I trying to kid? I'm just kidding myself. I'm not fine." And I just spent the whole day. Don't think I even pulled the blind up in the living room. I just spent the whole day and most of the following day just on the floor, just being made tea. And Phil came in that night because he'd obviously gone off to work before all this, so he had no idea. And he came in, and I'm just sat on the floor in floods of tears. And I cry at soppy stuff, but when it's really serious, I'm really, really emotionally strong. And he just was like, "You all right?" And I said, "No, I'm done." He went, "Okay, shall I make, what do you want for tea?" So I was just like this floppy thing for a couple of days. And I don't know what it was, because I had gone through the thought process of, well, I could just shut the doors on the shop, give the keys back to the landlord. And so I'd kind of thought about all of that. But yeah, there was just this little voice that said, "Really? Are you really going to do that?" And of course, part of what I was doing with holistic therapy, there's an awful lot of mentoring other people through, and I'd mentored other people through, their cancer journeys, and through Reiki had been really successful with helping people through chemotherapy, just kind of keeping them strong while they had this treatment. And so I'd seen some people in really severe situations, and I just thought, there's more, there's more to it. Like, I know the body heals itself. I know, anatomy and physiology, I know what happens. And so I just thought, well, if I could get my blood pressure down, then that would stop me feeling like a pressure keg. And then if I could get some sleep, maybe I could think clearly. So those were the kind of initial steps. And I took a painkiller called gabapentin, which is really strong. It gives you complete brain fog. You feel like a zombie, but the pain goes. And once the pain went, I could sleep. And then I found a therapist that was working with us called Louise Morgan, does aromatology. And it's the therapeutic use of neat oils. So like 80 drops of a oil combination to kind of reboot the nervous system. And within 3 treatments, I had no pain. So all this pain that had been keeping me awake and driving me crazy wasn't there. So then you're able to kind of think a bit more laterally and decide what to do next.
And actually that sort of outpouring, that vulnerability, that letting go was probably part of the healing process. You think about the change curve, they call it, don't they, where you go through the various different stages of emotions, denial, anger, all of those things. But actually that release was probably your mind's way of saying, right, I'm getting rid of that, and then we can start, as you say, then you can start taking, I love what you've just said about taking steps. If you're able to get yourself to a position where you can sleep, you can then reboot, you can then get rid of the pain, etc., you can then actually sort of position yourself in a way where you can go through, you've gone through that emotional journey, and then you're able to then take, as you say, take the steps towards reinvigorating whatever that dream or goal might be.
Yeah. And it, like you say, nothing happens overnight, but once I was able to sleep and able to get my pain under control, then I hired an ex-Marine personal trainer. Yeah, it was crazy decision.
Yeah, awesome.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. And I'd never done any sort of personal training before. I'd done ballet and I'd done gym classes and all that sort of stuff, but I'd never really looked at the mechanics of the body and the kind of getting every bit strong and kind of balancing. And there were points where I would fall off whatever I was trying to balance on because my balance was still really skewy, and we would just laugh. There were other points where I'd say, "I've got to stop, I'm going to be sick." He's like, "There's a bucket." And there was literally a bucket in his training. He's like, "There's a bucket, just throw up and we'll carry on." What? But again, it showed me that actually my body was capable of a lot more than I thought it was, because I was in this sort of eggshells, oh God, I'm going to break kind of mode. And, when I did get stronger, we worked together for about 18 months. And by the end, I was, bench pressing weights above my head and doing all sorts of stuff. So I really do, he knows it, a guy called Dean Taylor, I really do credit him with a massive amount of my recovery, because he challenged me a lot.
But you should also credit yourself with a lot of that recovery, because it is as you've just said, the body is capable of achieving incredible things if you're willing to push yourself, and if you're willing to test your own limits. You're only, you can only go above your limits by your perceived limits by testing them. So I think you should give yourself a little bit more credit than you're giving Dean. But and
I would sort of have this, what's the worst thing that can happen, and as long as I was okay with that. And there were times when, naps became my best friend. There were times when I would overdo it completely, and then I'd have to, it was almost like flu symptoms if I overdid things. And I still, to a point, I still get that today. There's like a fluiness around my body when I've overdone things, like moving house or helping someone else move house, or, there's a point where I know I've pushed it and I have to just go straight back to sleep, to go straight back to a nap during the day and kind of reboot. But I think we should all know when we've got to our limits, or when we've gone past our limits, and how we recover, because it's different for, I've worked with thousands of people over the last 4 years through the sort of corporate wellbeing thing, and it's different for everyone. Some people it'll be social interaction, for other people it'll be peace and quiet, for some people it'll be sleep, for others it'll be nutrition or fitness. We all have, you need to know your recipe. That's what I sort of say. You need to know what to put in to recover, and I definitely learned it over that period of time.
That's a wonderful lesson. I'm still trying to find my limits. I love that you have got a tap on tuned into yours. That's a very important skill to have, to be able to sort of recognize when you've gone too far. I push myself far too far when it comes to fitness, for example, and then spend 2 days feeling sorry for myself, but I don't realize that it's because I've overpushed myself, and I'm back out on it the next day. But
and don't think I'm not fallible, because I can still get it wrong, especially if you're busy. If you've got too many things going on in life, with like work and home life and everything else, you can mess up and get it wrong. Like, don't think that I'm shiny bouncy 24/7, because you do get it wrong. But I bounce quicker, and I do it less often now than I used to.
I wonder, did your background in health and well-being, did that help you with your own health and well-being?
Yes, massively, because obviously I knew how the body functioned, and I'd done lots of, research about stress, and with holistic therapies, I'd seen people recover from things that they'd had for years, like with Reiki particularly, because it works mind, body, spirit. So I always knew the healing power of the body when it had the right kind of circumstances. And so, yeah, absolutely, it definitely, definitely helped.
Yeah, we need to move away from this sort of perception of the what's the word I'm looking for, the sort of the fluffiness of mental well-being, don't we? And mindfulness in particular, that it's a sort of, somehow it has a sort of misconception to it that we're all sort of sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya or something like that, whereas actually the ability to give the body the space that it needs, and understand, you talk about sort of flow through the body. I was having a great conversation with a previous guest on the previous season about flow and just being, not allowing your mind to sort of lose everything, rather than having to sort of constantly focus on the next thing, actually just taking the space to remind ourselves. We talked about rebooting, removing the pain, taking those steps. So there's a fantastic message there, that actually mental health, mental fitness, mental well-being comes in a variety of different forms, and there's something for everyone. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit there meditating if that's not your thing.
No, I think, the stuff we do in Discover Your Banks, there's an awful lot of science. We talk about the reticular activator in the brain, from looking at what your vision is and what your goals are, and how you can kind of program that to find the things that you need. So yeah, there's a lot of science. We work with nutritionists and fitness experts and all the rest of it. But there is also that being open. I always say when people said, I don't believe in that. Well, are you open to just trying it? So yeah, I think there's so much out there. Like you say, you need to find what's comfortable for you. But I know like the aromatology, there were loads of studies on aromatology, but for 3 treatments of aromatology to completely take away the pain that had paralyzed me, and took, I had to take gabapentin, this really strong painkiller, to numb it. Usually 3 treatments, it was gone forever. I wouldn't have believed that had I not sat there with lots of witnesses, and some of the aromatherapy oils would cause breathing difficulties for children. So I had to, during the treatment, it was like 45 minutes with these oils, I had to be away from children because they were so strong. So yeah,
it really does blow the mind, doesn't it? I mean, who would have thought a combination of oils over a series of treatments would take away this, disabling pain that you were experiencing, and yet there it is.
Yeah, and actually this arm is now stronger. My left arm and hand, my left side is stronger in the gym than my right. We did some strength exercises the other day, and my left leg and arm are stronger than my right, when they had complete weakness. So yeah, amazing what can happen.
Well, it just shows what coming back to what the body is capable of. You mentioned Discover Your Bounce. This is your business. I wonder if you could. I read I'm going to take a quote that I read on the website. The business helps support people through their growth, which I think is lovely. I really like that. Perhaps you could explain that and tell us a little bit more about what it is you do.
Yeah, so I think people are amazing. I've learned that, and through sharing my story, I've heard so many other people's bounce back stories, and we have a series of books. We run a publishing company as well, and there's a series of books called The Bounce Back Journey, where we get people to share their stories, and there's 4 books about all sorts of subjects. So yeah, support people through their growth. I think, we kind of mentor, so we take someone's hand. I think if you give people the right tools and techniques and the space to do that, then I think people can really massively change. So we have lots of tools and techniques, and we sort of share them all, and we say to people, maybe just try a few of these and see what happens. And we've heard really stressed people, particularly in the workplace, say, I feel so different, and it's only the next day, for example, or that the atmosphere in the office has massively changed as a result of us presenting a workshop. It used to be in person, now very much virtually. But the original, so to sort of complete the story, I sold the coffee shop and holistic centre for a profit 2.5 years later, because I realised that actually it was helping people, and I wanted to help more people than just the people I could see, Monday to Saturday in the therapy rooms. And I carried on teaching Reiki and doing some Reiki. I've got smaller premises along the road. And then the following year, I wrote this 6-part program, didn't know if it was going to work, so got a couple of friends through networking to try it, and 2 guys, 2 girls, and the results were just brilliant. People had got new businesses, found partners, got through, it helped them through grief. It helped them recover from general anxiety disorder. So, but it was looking at, the first 3 parts were mind, body, spirit, looking at kind of the, who we are internally. And the second sort of 3 steps were looking at relationships with other people, looking at our relationship with money, looking at our home and our work and our routines, and then finally getting a vision of what good looked like going into the future. So that was the kind of the Bounce program, and that worked really well as a mentoring program. But then seeing all the stress in the workplace kind of coming through, I met Sharon, who we talk about who's our inspiring people. Then she's up there. She was a friend of a friend, but we sort of got together through one of the books, and now we run all the businesses together. So, but yeah, it's just about sort of, you know, giving people those tools and saying, well, have you tried this? Or, you know, like you say, if people find out what makes them tick, what their priorities are, then they're going to have a different experience, and they'll say yes to all the right things and no to the other stuff.
I love the relevance of that to, you know, you sort of listed basically, you know, all areas of life, and, you know, how it can improve relationships, work, personal life, interactions, you know, whatever it might be. There's something that we can all take something from that, you know, as I say, sort of relevant across that whole spectrum. And you talk about tools and techniques. I'm going to crowbar into the 87% app. What did you take from it? Any sort of, you know, concerns, any takeouts, anything that you are looking to improve, any questions? It'd be interesting to get your take on it.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, it was interesting, like you say, going through all the different, you know, aspects of life, like emotions and mindset and work, and you know, and even the sort of values, like you say, are you a people pleaser, for example? I'm paraphrasing, I know it doesn't exactly say that, but it was really good because it came out on the app, you know, that I was thriving, but it also made me remember all the things that underpinned that, you know, all the journeys and all the things I do on a regular basis, and the things that I've let go of and now don't do, for example. So yeah, I thought that was good. I've bookmarked a few of the resources to kind of read through, and I did the little, you know, how are you today, because it can, you know, you talk about mental fitness, it can change, can't it? If we're feeling in a really bad mood and we fill in all those questions, then we're going to get a very different result to if you're feeling really positive and good and you fill them out. So I think it is worth remembering, a bit like mental health, you know, it's a sliding scale. We can have good and bad days, you know, and good and bad periods. And just because you are here, it doesn't mean, you know, the fixed mindset would say, oh, well, this is where I am, this is my lot. But if you can get into that sort of growth mindset and just say, okay, well, if I was going to take one step to feel better, what would that be? Then, you know, you kind of realize it. And it's amazing the changes people can make. You know, the Banks program is usually 6 weeks. Some people do it over 12. But when they look at where they were and where they end up, you know, people are just incredible.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to recognise that, and it comes back to what you were saying a moment ago about sort of understanding your limits. It's important to recognise that the importance of recognition and self-awareness in terms of being conscious of your mental fitness on a day-to-day basis, and understanding, right, why don't I feel perhaps as good as I did yesterday? Why do I feel better than I did yesterday? What are the reasons behind that? Because then obviously that helps us manage our stress levels, our frustrations, our emotions better over a period of time, and keeps our focus, keeps our performance up, you know, and helps with our interactions with other people, etc., etc., etc. I wanted to just touch back on that serious topic that we mentioned a little bit earlier, suicide. 10th of September is World Suicide Prevention Day. And I'd like to speak to you about this because you are a suicide first aider. And I wonder if you could tell me a bit more about what that entails, why you got into it, how you got into it, whether you have a particular, you know, relationship or anything more to do with suicide as a whole.
Yeah, so yeah, it's called the Assist course, and I did it literally about a week before lockdown. But roll back, so in early 2019, a couple of members of the team's family members had, you know, one actually took their own life, and one was a very serious suicide attempt where someone ended up in, you know, in resus as a result of an attempt. So it hit the team, you know, there was sort of two different people that were going through experiences, and the person that survived, he'd had a previous suicide attempt, and we just couldn't get any help. So there is help, but there's huge waiting lists, and, you know, and I'm sure since, you know, sort of post-COVID, it's probably even more challenging, I would think. But at the time, we couldn't get this person the help that they needed. And so we paid privately as a family to ensure this person got the help. But I started then looking at the suicide figures, and I started looking at different industries. And I went to a construction day, a mental health day, and they said that 2 construction workers took their own life every working day. And I just thought, and that suicide is the biggest killer of men under 49. And I just took these figures and just thought, why aren't we talking about this? Why don't more people know these figures? And being a kind of proactive person, what can we do? And Sharon and I both sort of sat down and we decided to do a mental health hackathon. So we called as many people in Bristol as we knew over to the Science Park in Emerson's Green, and we had I think we had 50, 60 people in this room, and we said, how can we solve the suicide problem in Bristol? Not solve so no one has a problem, because that's not going to happen, but so that people have a pathway and support. They know where to go and how to get help. And so we came up with the kind of facts from this were that construction was obviously an area of big concern, and that education generally was a big part of this, educating young people, but also educating everyone that mental health is a scale, and it's okay to, and thankfully it's being more normalized every day, but there are still people that don't speak up. And so we still have work to do. So we set up what we call our social passion project. So it's kind of like corporate social responsibility, but that sounded a bit dry. So, the sort of passion bit was quite important. And so we started doing free toolbox talks to any construction companies in the UK. Obviously now we do them virtually, but they were in person. And we've worked with over 100 construction workers doing this talk and just, talking about what mental health is, the fact that it can be good or bad, and how you can get help. There's a lovely charity within the construction industry called the Lighthouse Foundation, and they help people in construction with things like financial help, because finance and money worries can be a massive part, as we know. But so we started giving these toolbox talks, and we also started producing the Bounce Back Journey books. And so the royalties from the Bounce Back Journey books fund the project. So we do, as I say, these free mental health toolbox talks. We also do a monthly wellbeing event, held on Zoom, but anyone can come. You'll see on our website they're there. And because it's World Suicide Day in September, we're donating. I'm just in the process of getting hold of Suicide Prevention Bristol to donate a kit to one of their volunteers. So each kit's about £300. Because they go out and patrol like the Suspension Bridge and certain areas in Bristol. So so it just felt like we were doing something. And I think the assist first aid, I just thought if I was to come across someone, or if there was someone in the family, you never know who you're going to encounter. I thought I want to be able to use the right language and to help someone in the right way. That was why I did the training.
Wonderful. I mean, hugely commendable, and it's very interesting about construction workers. I was aware of farmers. I was aware of vets. I didn't realise that construction was an issue, was as high an issue. So I mean, that's incredible work that you're doing, and thank you for explaining it. I think this is, as you say, we are making inroads. People are more aware of the importance of speaking up, but still some people are struggling with how and where to do so. So that's an incredibly valuable service.
You just never know, do you, what situation you're going to be in and who you're going to encounter. And as you say, I think if we can all, the whole be kind thing, because we don't know what people are going through. So yes, be kind, but also if everyone helped one person, how much influence could we have? They've done experiments, haven't they, where people meditate and the crime rate goes down and all these sorts of things. And so I think if we can all just help one person, then we can make a massive difference.
If it helps one person, it's worth it, isn't it? So I'm going to transition into the questions that we ask all our guests at the end, if that's all right. Is there anything that is an absolute non-negotiable that you do regularly to help your mindset or improve your mood?
Yes. Can I have two?
Go on then.
So the first one is sleep. I've talked about it before, and it really is a deal breaker for me. I have to have about 8.5 hours sleep, if not more, preferably, to be a functioning human being. Otherwise, I do get quite grumpy. You know, the odd night, fine. 2 or 3 nights, yeah, it's not pretty. So sleep for me, and if I can't sleep at night, then naps. The second one is ballet. So I did ballet from the age of 4 to 16, and then took my O-levels, shows my age, and found boys and gave up ballet. But I took it back up again. It's about nearly 3 years ago now. And I go to a local class in Keynsham, locally to where we live. And yeah, it's ballet, but just amazing, like diva music, and you know, all the kind of Whitneys and the Dolly Partons and all the different lovely uplifting tunes. And there's the age range there is, you know, huge. I don't know how old the oldest member would be, but over 70 for sure. And it's just such a giggle. And so I get to a ballet class. It might not be the same time every week because, you know, working in different businesses, you know, it can change, but I always make sure I get to at least one ballet class a week because it's just good for the soul.
I love that. And it just proves that, you know, people who say, oh, I don't like exercising. Well, it's because you're not doing it right, or you haven't found the one thing that you enjoy. It might, you know, I run ridiculous distances, but it might be ballet, it might be football, it might be tiddlywinks. It doesn't matter, as long as you've got something that is, you know, it gives you that sort of physical release, gives you that mind, that space, headspace. I think that's absolutely wonderful, and something that, as you say, that you can bring in, you know, that beautiful sort of traditional dancing into the sort of the modern space and do it along, you know, with Beyonce in the background. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. What makes you good at what you do?
I think I genuinely like people, and I think I genuinely love to see people thriving. So because I do quite a lot of public speaking, and someone said, you know, you're kind of like Tony Robbins, but instead of shouting, you'll take someone by the hand, make them a cup of tea, and you'll do it together. And I think actually that's a really good, you know, I might not have all the answers, I might not know I might not always say the right thing, but people know that I'm in it with them, you know, and so we'll work it out together. And so I think, you know, I am quite empathic when it comes to other people, I would say.
And what would you say to a young Nicky?
Don't marry husband number one. No, because if I didn't marry husband number one, I wouldn't have my amazing daughters. So no, I don't know. I think don't settle for as long as you settled, because if things are wrong, you know, there's usually I think we get, you know, signs that we're on the wrong track, whether that's our mood, whether that's our physical health, whatever it is. I think, you know, if things need changing, it might be tough, but what you get to the other side is well worth it. So I think, you know, change what needs changing and do it quicker. And the older I get, the less I people please. I'm still lovely to people, like I'm not mean, but I don't do things at the expense of my own health and well-being. I want it to be a win-win.
And any ideas, people, places, things, books, whatever it might be, that you have taken inspiration from recently?
Yeah, and as I say, Sharon, my business partner, I have to shout out to her because, yeah, you know, she takes my crazy ideas and runs with them, or she brings her own crazy ideas and we do it together. And it's been lovely having someone in the business who has as much energy and as much vision, you know, for things. A guy called Mike Dooley, who he runs TUT.com, Thoughts from the Universe, and his books, Infinite Possibilities, his book was particularly pivotal for me. Dr. David Hamilton, he's written loads of books, but How Your Mind Can Heal Your Body was like my Bible during recovery. And I think everyone should read that book, because we tend to accept when we have physical things wrong with us, and we don't necessarily, I'm not saying everything, some things can't be fixed, but there are a lot of things that can. And so that book was great. As far as my inspirational place, Sedona in Arizona. It's just the most incredible. It's like a spiritual Grand Canyon. That's the only way I can describe it. But it's just the most, you just go there and life changes for the better by you just wandering around. I can't describe it, but I've been about 6 times. I've taken people on retreat there, and as soon as we're able to travel, it's one of my first destinations back. So
sounds like one to add to the bucket list.
Yeah.
And lastly, if people would like to get in touch, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, we have a community on Facebook called Discover Your Bounce Community, where we share. We were going live 7 days a week during lockdown, but twice a week we go live. But we share tips and techniques and just inspirations, and it's a really lovely. It is a community. People will. So if you're asking something, other members of the community will come in and help. If you're having a tough day, people will come in with what works for them. Brilliant space. And discoveryourbounce.com is the website. So if you want to find out about the corporate wellbeing, the personal wellbeing, or the publishing, we have a membership which is called My Wellbeing Club. That, again, you can find out on the website, which is like a monthly membership. So it's paid for, but we interview experts. We share daily prompts to keep people on track, because when you're busy and overwhelmed, we're kind of that squeezed generation where we're bringing up our children and looking after our parents, and time can be really kind of critical for us. So it's just a support space where we get do monthly mentoring and just help keep people focused, really. So yeah.
Wonderful.
I think the Facebook group is probably the first stop.
Sure. Okay, great, thank you. I think that probably covers just about everything for taking up an hour of your time. So thank you, first of all, for spending that time. I love you're so much energy. It's sort of infectious. I mean, I think of myself as a pretty upbeat guy, but I'm sort of drawn to this energy. I love the fact that we covered the relationship between mental health and how it can impact your physical health, the relationship. We talked about the mind and recovering the body, the importance of taking steps, rebooting. Sleep is so important for rejuvenation of the body. We've also covered the importance of vulnerability as part of the sort of the emotional journey. We've covered self-awareness, recognition of emotion. Wow, I mean, it's just, we've covered so much in an hour. I'm not sure quite how we've managed to cram it all in, but it's been wonderful. So I want to thank you very much indeed for your time, and it's been enlightening. I'm sure people will take a huge amount from it.
Brilliant. No, thanks, James. It has been a bit of a whistle stop tour, hasn't it, around? But it's been really, really great. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thanks again. Hi everyone, I really hope you agree with what I said there at the end about Nicky's energy, and that it has given you energy to engage in whatever activity it is you might be undertaking or even thinking of undertaking. Nicky's story of overcoming such a serious setback is testament to the human spirit, and her success since those tough times can be motivation for us all. In particular, remember Nicky's own words that nothing happens overnight, and if we can take one step in the right direction, then we can start out on our own journeys towards our goals. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, please rate it and share it, and subscribe to Life Happens by 87% on whichever platform you get your podcasts, and I look forward to welcoming you to the next episode of Life Happens.